"Don't come to the wedding," my mom texted. "You and your kids just make things awkward." My sister reacted with a laughing emoji. I replied, "Then you won't need my card for the venue." The group chat blew up with more laughter, completely unaware of what was about to happen next. You won't believe what happened. Just 3 weeks before my sister's wedding, a text message from my own mother hit my phone, shattering my heart into a million pieces. It said, "Randy, we think it's best if you don't come to the wedding. You and your kids just make things awkward, and we want this day to be perfect for Natalie." And get this, Natalie, the bride, followed up with a laughing emoji. A laughing emoji. That was the moment I knew, with chilling clarity, that their so-called perfect day was about to unravel spectacularly. My name is Randy, I'm 34, and I'm a single mom to 2 amazing kids. You know how some families have a golden child? Well, in my family, that was always Natalie, my younger sister. She was everything my mom, Diane, valued. Naturally blonde, petite, cheerleader, homecoming queen, business degree. Basically, the perfect Barbie doll come to life. And then there was me. I had wild, curly hair, loved my sketch pads more than pom-poms, and had this annoying habit of, questioning things. That never sat well with my status-conscious mother. I still remember when I announced I wanted to major in graphic design. My mother actually cried at the dinner table. Can you imagine? Cried, like I just announced I was joining a circus. Natalie, of course, was right there, patting Mom's hand, looking at me with that perfect blend of pity and superiority. The divide between us just kept growing. It exploded when I got pregnant with Tyler at 24. My mother's first words? Not "Are you okay?" or "How can we help?" but "What will people think?" Natalie, fresh off her MBA, looked at me like I was a tragic case study. "Oh, Randy," she cooed. "How are you going to manage a baby? You can barely manage yourself." My mother nodded along like it was gospel. Those early years were brutal. I finished my degree while pregnant, gave birth between exams, and graduated with my newborn in my arms, totally alone. My family was nowhere to be seen. I worked freelance design jobs from a tiny apartment, learning to nurse with one hand, surviving on fumes. My mother's rare visits felt more like inspections, packed with passive-aggressive comments about my choices, my apartment, my life. "You should have thought about all this before getting pregnant," she'd sneer, anytime I dared to mention being tired. Every bit of help came with conditions, making it abundantly clear I was nothing but a burden and an embarrassment. Then David, Emma's father, left for LA to pursue his music career. So there I was at 28, a single mom of 2 incredible, energetic kids, carving out a life for us through sheer grit. I built a home business, becoming that reliable designer who could always deliver. But family gatherings? They were exercises in torture. Mom would gush over Natalie's career and dating life, then pivot to pointed criticisms about my children's behavior or even my weight. "Randy, you might want to try that new diet I read about," she'd announce loudly across the Thanksgiving table. Or, "Can't you get Tyler to sit still for 5 minutes?" Natalie was never so fidgety as a child. It was relentless. My kids, bless their hearts, felt it too. Tyler, always so perceptive, started withdrawing around Grandma and Aunt Natalie. Emma, naturally bubbly, would try so hard to get their approval, only to be corrected for being too loud or too messy. Still, I persisted. I brought them to Sunday dinners. I remembered birthdays with thoughtful, handmade gifts that were met with polite, underwhelmed thanks. Family is family, I kept telling myself. The kids deserve to know their relatives. Then came the dinner 6 months ago. Natalie announced her engagement to James, the son of Harold Wilson, a huge real estate developer. My mother practically vibrated with excitement. The social boost, the connections. She looked at Tyler and Emma, who were quietly playing cards, and I knew exactly what she was thinking. They weren't part of that grand equation. They were the complications, the imperfect extensions of her imperfect daughter. To my surprise, I actually got a call from my mom the next day about wedding planning. "Randy," she said, "Natalie wants you there. Eleanor Wilson will be joining us. So please wear something appropriate. That pause before appropriate spoke volumes, but I chose to hope. Maybe, just maybe, this could bring us closer. That Saturday, I arrived at the fancy restaurant, wearing my nicest blouse and the one pair of dress pants that didn't have kid stains. Emma had been sick, so I was 7 minutes late after scrambling for a sitter. My mother's tight smile told me those 7 minutes had been logged as another one of my endless failings. Eleanor Wilson was exactly as I'd pictured, expensively dressed, radiating old money confidence. She scanned me, taking in my scuffed flats, my frizzy hair that the humidity had already attacked. "This is Diane's older daughter, Randy," Natalie introduced me, waving a newly manicured hand. "She does some kind of computer art or something." "I'm a graphic designer," I gently corrected, offering Eleanor my hand. But every suggestion I offered about the wedding was politely acknowledged, then immediately dismissed. "Oh, that's sweet," Eleanor said when I offered to design custom invitations, "but we've already contacted Harringtons. They do all the society weddings here." My mother beamed. I just took a long sip of water, swallowing my pride. As the weeks passed, my involvement dwindled. I'd get texts about decisions already made, framed as updates, never requests for input. The only area my participation seemed desired was financial. "We found the perfect venue," my mother announced during a rare phone call. "The Grand Pavilion at Lakeside Gardens. It's stunning, but with all the extras Natalie deserves, it's running a bit higher than our budget." The careful pause. "I don't suppose you could contribute anything? For your sister's special day." Despite my tight finances, I offered $5,000 for the venue. It meant dipping into my emergency fund, postponing home repairs, but I wanted to show my support. My mother's relieved thanks and promises of full involvement seemed worth it. Then, Tyler and Emma came bounding into the kitchen, faces alight with excitement. "Aunt Natalie called," Tyler announced. "She asked if I want to be a junior groomsman, and Emma gets to be a flower girl." My heart soared. Finally, we were included. That weekend, we went shopping for outfits. My mother insisted on joining, her expert eye needed. It was a disaster. She criticized everything: Emma's hair, Tyler's posture. When Emma accidentally knocked over a mannequin, Mom's face went rigid with embarrassment. "This is precisely why children need proper discipline," she hissed at me in the changing room. A few minutes later, I overheard her on the phone, voice low but clear. "Yes, Natalie, it's exactly what we feared. The children are completely wild, and Randy just lets them run amok. Yes, it might complicate things having them in the wedding party." My stomach clenched. They were re-evaluating my children, seeing them as liabilities. I tried to talk to Natalie privately, but she was always swamped in tastings with the planner. Then, the bridal shower. I saw the photos on social media, everyone raising champagne glasses. My cousins, aunts, mother, neighbors, all showering our beautiful bride with love. I stared at those photos for hours, searching, hoping for any sign that my absence was even noticed. There was none. They all looked perfectly happy, perfectly complete without me. Around the same time, I heard through my Aunt Susan that James's parents had hosted a formal dinner to meet Natalie's family. All of Natalie's family, apparently, except me and my kids. When I asked my mother about it, she brushed it off. Very last minute, very small, just immediate family. The phrase hung in the air. In their minds, I had been reclassified as extended family. Or maybe no family at all. Rumors started reaching me. My mother had told people I was too busy. Uncle Robert asked if it was true I'd opted out of planning. Finally, after weeks of evasion, I confronted Natalie. "So, what exactly am I doing for the ceremony? Is there a dress color? Are Tyler and Emma still in the wedding party?" Her response was vague, non-committal. "We're still figuring out details. The wedding party is getting kind of large, so we might need to make some adjustments. I'll let you know." I hung up with a sinking feeling. Those adjustments felt suspiciously like erasing my family from the picture. Still, I clung to hope. Surely my own mother and sister wouldn't completely exclude us, especially after I'd committed $5,000? I was wrong. The message arrived on a Thursday morning, 3 weeks before the wedding. I was making breakfast. My phone buzzed with the family group chat notification. Mom had created it to keep everyone in the loop, but it was mostly for showcasing Natalie's ongoing princess treatment. That morning, it started innocuously enough. Mom posting photos of floral arrangements, Natalie chiming in about RSVPs. I was about to set my phone down when Mom's next text stopped me cold. "Randy, we think it's best if you don't come to the wedding. You and your kids just make things awkward, and we want to stay to be perfect for Natalie." I froze, spatula in hand, eggs burning on the stove. Before I could even process it, Natalie responded with a laughing emoji, and Mom's right. No offense, but James's family is really classy. The phone nearly slipped from my suddenly numb fingers. I shut off the stove, mechanically, my mind racing. This had to be a joke, right? But then more messages poured in. My mother again. "It's nothing personal, Randy. It's just that the Wilsons have certain expectations about the type of event this will be. Children who aren't properly behaved would be a distraction. Plus, you always look so stressed and tired in photos. This wedding is going to be in all the local magazines." And then the kicker. "We still appreciate the venue contribution, of course." That was very generous. I felt like I'd been physically struck. The kitchen wobbled as tears blurred my vision. "Mom, the eggs are burning." Tyler's small voice broke through my shock. "Mom, are you okay? You're crying." He stood there, his 10-year-old face creased with concern. Emma, 6, was blissfully arranging stuffed animals unaware. I quickly wiped my eyes, forced a smile. "I'm fine, buddy. Just got something in my eye." But as I cracked fresh eggs with trembling hands, my shock morphed into something else, a deep, burning anger. How dare they treat my children this way? How dare they act like we were embarrassing accessories, not family? I picked up my phone, my fingers flying. I typed, working hard to keep my tone controlled despite the rage. "Then you won't need my card for the venue." Natalie immediately responded with another laughing emoji. "Good one, sis, but seriously, the venue deposit is non-refundable, so thanks for that." My mother added, "Don't be dramatic, Randy. This is about what's best for your sister's special day." Then my father, who'd been silent until now, chimed in, "Your mother's right, Randy. Sometimes it's better to step back. No need to make this about you." More messages flooded in from other family members, all of whom had been silently watching this public execution of my dignity. "Randy, dear, perhaps this is for the best," Aunt Patty wrote. "Remember Tom and Sally's party when Tyler knocked over the ice sculpture? Uncle Dave. Some events just aren't kid-friendly. Nothing personal. Cousin Beth. I think what they're trying to say is more intimate ceremony equals more elegant. You understand, right?" With every message, the knot in my stomach tightened. These people had known me my entire life, watched me grow up, become a mother, build a career. Not one of them stood up for me or my children. I set my phone face down. "Time for breakfast, guys." I called, determined they wouldn't see how shaken I was. But after I dropped them at school, I sat in my car and finally broke down. Huge, racking sobs tore through me. It wasn't just about a wedding invitation. It was about years of being treated as lesser, of watching my children be judged and found wanting, of trying so hard to maintain connections with people who fundamentally didn't respect me. That evening, after the kids were in bed, I finally looked at the messages. Most were variations on "you're overreacting," "you're selfish," "think of Natalie's happiness." The conversation had moved on to who would sit at my table now. I curled up on the sofa, wrapped in the quilt my grandmother had made me before she died. She had been different. She'd celebrated my creativity, defended my choices, and loved my children without reservation. "Family is about acceptance, not perfection," she used to say. If she were alive, she would have been appalled. As midnight approached, I made tea, sitting at my kitchen table. I started processing not just today, but years of subtle and not so subtle mistreatment. The wedding exclusion wasn't an anomaly. It was the most blatant expression of how my mother and sister truly saw us. The realization was painful, but strangely liberating. For years, I'd chased approval I'd never receive, made excuses for inexcusable behavior, and exposed my children to people who saw them as inconveniences. No more, I whispered to my empty kitchen. This stops now. The next morning, I called Zoe, my best friend since college. They did what? She exploded after I recounted the text exchange. Oh my God, Randy, that's beyond cruel. That's psychological warfare. Hearing her validate my feelings solidified everything. This wasn't a miscommunication. It was a pattern. I don't know why I'm even surprised. I said, my voice steadier than I expected. Remember Emma's 5th birthday, when my mom showed up with a cake because mine wasn't presentable enough? Zoe added. Or when your sister scheduled her housewarming party the same day as Tyler's school play? We talked, and more memories surfaced, each one a puzzle piece clicking into place. The casual remarks, the endless comparisons, the way family photos never included us. I think I've been gaslighting myself, I admitted. Making excuses, telling myself it wasn't that bad. That's what happens, Zoe replied gently. You normalize it. But Randy, there's nothing normal about what they're doing. It's toxic, and you and your kids deserve so much better. I felt strangely calm after our call, like the eye of a hurricane. But that calm shattered when Tyler came home from school, red-eyed, with a defensive hunch to his shoulders. What happened, buddy? I asked. He was quiet. Jake said we're not going to Aunt Natalie's wedding anymore. He said it's because we don't know how to act right, and his grandma doesn't want us there. Jake was Natalie's stepson. My heart broke all over again. Tyler, look at me. What Jake said isn't true. The reason we're not going has nothing to do with you or your behavior. It's about grown-up problems. Is it because we're not rich like Jake's family? He asked, with the devastating directness of children. No, honey. It's because sometimes adults make bad choices that hurt other people's feelings. And when that happens, we need to set boundaries. That evening, the calls started. My mother, father, aunts, uncles. All variations of be reasonable, don't make a scene, and you promised the venue money. I let most go to voicemail, but took my father's call. Randy, you know how your mother gets about these social events. Just let this one go. Dad, do you understand what happened here? Mom and Natalie publicly uninvited your grandchildren, humiliated them, and now their cousin is bullying them at school. And you want me to just let it go? He sighed. You're blowing this out of proportion. No one meant to hurt the kids. This wedding is very important for your sister's future. The Wilsons are influential people. His silence was answer enough, more influential than his own grandchildren's emotional well-being. After hanging up, I sat at my kitchen table, my designer's brain automatically organizing the chaos. What we know. 1. My family excluded us cruelly. 2. They still expect $5,000. 3. This is a pattern. 4. My children are being harmed. What we don't know. 1. What does James know? 2. What have they told the Wilsons about us? 3. What's the real story with a venue payment? I started investigating. First call, the venue. I identified myself as Natalie's sister, helping with details. Has the final payment been made? The coordinator hesitated. The initial deposit was made, but the final payment is actually past due. We've sent several reminders. According to our contract, it's due this Friday. Without it, we can't guarantee the reservation. Wait, what? My contribution was supposed to complete the payment. There is a note here about a partial payment from the sister of the bride, she confirmed, but we haven't received it. Next call, Aunt Susan, my mother's younger sister, the only one likely to give me straight answers. Aunt Susan, can I ask you something about Natalie's wedding? I need you to be honest. Of course, honey. I heard there was some drama about you not attending. Your mother said you were having personal issues. That's not true. They explicitly uninvited us. What have they told James's family about us? Susan paused. Eleanor Wilson is very concerned with appearances. During dinner, your mother mentioned you only once. She said you were an artist living in another state. Another state? I live 20 minutes away. And when James asked if you had children, your mother changed the subject very quickly. I got the distinct impression she's pretending you have a very different life than you actually do. A cold realization washed over me. They're ashamed of us. They're literally hiding our existence to impress these people. I think your mother sees this as Natalie's big chance, Susan said. She doesn't want anything to complicate that narrative. My last call was to a lawyer friend. If you never signed anything, you have no legal obligation, he assured me. A verbal promise of a gift doesn't constitute a binding agreement. By the end of the day, I had a much clearer picture. My mother and sister had counted on my money while deeming me and my kids unworthy of attending. They'd erased me from their carefully constructed family narrative, all to impress the Wilsons. And most disturbingly, they saw nothing wrong with any of it. Tucking my children into bed that night, a steely resolve formed in my heart. This wasn't about a wedding anymore. This was about teaching my children self-respect, healthy boundaries, and recognizing when relationships are damaging. We deserve better, I whispered, kissing their foreheads. And I'm going to make sure we get it. The next morning, I woke with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. The path forward wasn't revenge, but justice. Self-respect. Breaking unhealthy patterns. My lawyer friend Mike helped me draft a clear, firm email to my mother and sister, CCing the venue. It stated that due to our exclusion, I was formally withdrawing my offer. I wished them well and requested no further contact about financial contributions. Then I blocked their numbers. I needed space. Next, I focused on creating a special day for my kids on the wedding date. How would you guys feel about going to Adventure World? I asked at dinner. Their enthusiasm was immediate. Is that the same day as Aunt Natalie's wedding? Tyler asked. Yes, it is, I said. We're going to have our own special day, while they have theirs. But why aren't we going anymore? Emma asked, her lip trembling. Sometimes, Emma, people make choices that aren't very kind. Grandma and Aunt Natalie have made choices that hurt our feelings. When that happens, it's okay to choose not to spend time with those people for a while. Did we do something bad? She whispered.
No, sweetie.
You didn't do anything wrong at all. This is about them, not us. Over the next few days, I ignored the mounting voicemails and messages from family, all pressuring me to reconsider. My father appealed to loyalty. My aunt called me stubborn. My sister accused me of trying to ruin the biggest day of her life. I let them all go unanswered. Then, an unexpected call. Randy, this is James, Natalie's fiancé. I hope you don't mind me calling directly. I hesitated. Hello, James. This is unexpected. I know. Look, there seems to be some confusion about the guest list. Natalie told me you didn't want to attend, but then I heard from the venue about a payment issue. He sounded genuinely bewildered. James, I'm going to tell you something that might be difficult to hear. My mother and sister explicitly uninvited us via group text. They said my children and I make things awkward. I even told him they still expected me to contribute $5,000. That can't be right, he said, but his voice was full of doubt. I can forward you the entire text exchange if you'd like to see it for yourself. Would you? I'd really appreciate that. I sent him the entire humiliating thread. 30 minutes later, he called back, his voice shaken. I don't even know what to say. I had no idea. My parents have been asking about meeting you and your kids, and Natalie kept making excuses. I just assumed you were busy. Not this. I'm sorry you're finding out this way, I said. For what it's worth, I think Natalie genuinely cares about you. She just also cares tremendously about impressions and status, a value she inherited directly from our mother. I need to talk to her about this, he said. And my parents, they would be horrified if they knew family members were being excluded like this. That's not how we operate. 4 or 5 days, silence. It was disconcerting, but peaceful. I finalized our adventure world plans. The morning of Natalie's wedding dawned bright and clear. Somewhere across town, my sister was getting ready. My mother was likely fussing over every detail, creating the illusion of family harmony for the Wilsons. And here I was, choosing a different path. Mom, is it time to go to Adventure World? Emma burst into my room, swimsuit on backwards. Tyler, excited, followed. Let's have breakfast first. I laughed, helping Emma. My phone was deliberately off, tucked away. Today wasn't about what we were missing, it was about what we were choosing to create. Adventure World was incredible. We conquered rides, took silly photos, indulged in overpriced food. Tyler overcame his fear of the tallest water slide, emerging with a triumphant grin. Emma won a stuffed unicorn. This is better than a boring wedding anyway, right, Mom? Tyler asked. Different experiences are valuable in different ways, Tyler, I told him. But today, this is exactly where we're meant to be, having fun together. By late afternoon, we were exhausted. Back home, with the kids engrossed in a movie, I finally retrieved my phone. It immediately buzzed with a cascade of notifications, 15 missed calls, 23 texts, 7 voicemails. The first voicemail, from Mom at 10:30 a.m., was surprisingly composed. Randy, I hope you'll reconsider your position. The wedding starts at 4 o'clock, and we need to resolve this. Call me back immediately. The second, from noon, had an edge of panic. Randy, this is ridiculous. The venue manager is saying there's an issue with the final payment. Call me right now. By the third voicemail, at 1:15 p.m., Mom's composure had completely crumbled. Randy, please. You have to help us. The venue manager is threatening to cancel everything if the final payment isn't made by 3 o'clock. I don't know what you said to them, but they're insisting the contract listed you as a partial payer, and they can't proceed without your payment or signature removing you from the agreement. Please, Natalie is in tears. You can't ruin her wedding like this. The remaining messages grew increasingly desperate, culminating in a sobbing Natalie begging me to just sign the stupid paper or pay the money. I sat at my kitchen table, absorbing this. I had sent that email to clarify my position, not to actively sabotage. I'd assumed Mom would just cover the gap herself. After ensuring the kids were engrossed in their movie, I called the venue. The manager confirmed it all. My mother had listed me as responsible for part of the payment on the contract, creating a legal complication when I withdrew my offer. We tried to be flexible, she explained, but we couldn't hold the space without full payment. Has the situation been resolved? I asked. Not to my knowledge. The last update I received was that they were attempting to secure an alternative venue for a scaled-down reception. The ceremony was moved to the church. At 7:30 p.m., after the children were bathed and in pajamas, I finally returned my mother's calls. She answered immediately, her voice brittle with exhaustion. It's a bit late to call now, isn't it? I've been busy all day with the kids. I just got your messages. What happened with the wedding? As if you don't know. Your little stunt nearly ruined everything. We had to move the reception to the church basement. Half the floral arrangements couldn't be transferred. Eleanor Wilson was horrified by the disorganization. I'm sorry things were complicated, I said carefully. But I don't understand why you put my name on a contract without my permission. That created this problem, not my withdrawal of a gift I was never obligated to give. Gift. This was your sister's wedding. Family helps family. Family also doesn't exclude family from important life events via group text, I retorted. The line went quiet. Is that what this was about? Revenge because your feelings were hurt?
No, Mom.
This was about respecting myself and my children enough to not financially support people who treat us as embarrassments. This was about showing my kids it's not okay to let people use you while simultaneously pushing you aside. Oh, that's rich coming from you. Do you have any idea the damage you've caused? James's parents left early. Before I could respond, Natalie's voice came on the line, venomous. You vindictive bitch. You couldn't stand that I was having something special, could you?
You had to make it all about you.
Natalie, I didn't create this situation. All I did was withdraw financial support from an event I was explicitly told not to attend. The consequences came from Mom putting my name on legal documents without my knowledge or consent. You could have just paid it anyway. And you knew how hurtful it was to uninvite your niece and nephew from being in your wedding party. You knew how humiliating it was to exclude your own sister via group text. You made your choices, and I made mine. The conversation devolved into tearful accusations and angry threats. I remained calm, repeatedly bringing it back to their actions and their consequences. After hanging up, a text message arrived from James. I want you to know that none of this was your fault. What happened today opened my eyes to some dynamics I hadn't fully recognized. Thank you for your honesty. I hope someday we can start fresh as family. 3 days later, I received a surprising call from Eleanor Wilson, James's mother. Randy, this is Eleanor Wilson. James gave me your number. I wanted to invite you and your children to brunch this Sunday. James has told us so much about his new niece and nephew, and we're eager to meet you all. I was momentarily speechless. That's very kind of you. We'd be happy to come. Wonderful. And Randy, I want you to know that James has explained the circumstances surrounding the wedding. My husband and I were quite disturbed to learn how you and your children were treated. That's not the kind of family values we raised our son with. The brunch with the Wilsons was a pivotal moment. Harold and Eleanor welcomed us with genuine warmth. They weren't the intimidating elitists my mother had portrayed. They were down to earth and immediately engaged with my children. Tyler, James tells me you're quite the baseball player, Harold said, showing him a collection of signed memorabilia. Emma, would you like to see the dollhouse that was mine when I was a little girl? Eleanor asked. Later, on the patio, Eleanor said, what your mother told us about you and what we've learned for ourselves are very different things. She said you lived out of state, struggled with stability. And now, I see a devoted mother raising 2 wonderful children. James speaks highly of your work. And most importantly, I see someone who had the strength to stand up for herself and her children. It wasn't about revenge, I clarified. It was about not allowing my children to internalize the message that they weren't good enough. I understand that better than you might think, Eleanor said, surprising me. My own mother was similar. Appearances meant everything. I wasn't the daughter she wanted either. That conversation marked the beginning of an unexpected alliance. While my own mother maintained a chilly distance, the Wilsons began regularly including us in family gatherings. Emma and Tyler developed a genuine friendship with James, who turned out to be an incredible uncle. In the months that followed, I went to therapy, finally unpacking years of conditional love and subtle undermining. My therapist explained that the wedding incident hadn't created the family dysfunction, it merely exposed decades-old patterns. Your mother has narcissistic tendencies, she said, and your sister learned that emulating your mother's values was the path to approval. Neither is likely to change without their own therapy. With that understanding, I began establishing clearer boundaries. I declined critical Sunday dinners. I limited phone calls with Mom to 15 minutes. I filtered information, keeping our precious moments private. My children flourished. Tyler's teacher noted his increased confidence. Emma's anxiety about being good enough faded, replaced by natural enthusiasm. My business grew as I redirected energy from family drama to my career. When Thanksgiving approached, James called. We're hosting this year. Eleanor suggested we start new traditions. We'd really love for you and the kids to join us. What about my mother and father? I asked. They've been invited, but with clear expectations about behavior. Eleanor had a rather direct conversation with your mother about how family members are to be treated in our home. Thanksgiving was tense at times, but ultimately healing. My mother was subdued. My father seemed relieved by the structure Eleanor imposed. Natalie, 6 months into her marriage, facing her husband's obvious affection for his niece and nephew, made awkward but genuine attempts to connect. Later, Natalie reached out, asking to meet. I'm not good at this, she began. Admitting when I've been wrong isn't exactly a skill Mom taught either of us. No, it wasn't, I agreed. The wedding was a disaster, she said bluntly. Not because of the venue change, but because I let Mom convince me that appearances matter more than actual relationships. James was really upset with me in ways I didn't expect. He said he didn't recognize the person I became. We've been in couples counseling. I'm not asking for forgiveness right away, she continued. I know what we did was cruel. I just want to know if there's a way forward. Tyler and Emma are the only niece and nephew I'll ever have, and I've been a terrible aunt. Healing takes time, I said carefully. I'm open to rebuilding, but it needs to be different. My priority is protecting my children from the kind of treatment we've all normalized for too long. Over the following months, Natalie made consistent, if sometimes awkward, efforts. She came to Tyler's school play. She bought Emma a thoughtfully selected art set. Small steps, but meaningful ones. My mother, however, proved less capable of change. She maintained I'd overreacted and deliberately caused problems. When I held firm to my boundaries, she adopted a martyr position. Eventually, I accepted that my relationship with my mother might never be what I'd hoped. Instead of trying to earn her approval, I focused on breaking the cycle with my own children. They would grow up knowing their worth didn't depend on meeting impossible standards. The family you're born into isn't always the family that nurtures you, I explained to Tyler one evening. Sometimes we have to create our own chosen family of people who love us as we are. Like Aunt Zoe and Miss Barbara, he asked.
Exactly.
And now Uncle James and the Wilsons, too. And we're a family, the three of us, Emma added, with the simple wisdom of childhood. The best family. As I hugged my children close, I reflected on the painful journey that had led us to this point of greater health and authenticity. That wedding text, which initially felt like such a devastating rejection, had ultimately been the catalyst for profound change. By standing up for myself and my children, I had broken generations of toxic patterns and created space for genuine connections to flourish. Forgiveness, I was learning, didn't require reconciliation with those who remained committed to harmful behavior. It meant releasing the anger that tied me to the pain, while maintaining the boundaries that protected our well-being. It meant acknowledging the reality of who people were, rather than clinging to fantasies. Most importantly, it meant teaching my children, through example, that love shouldn't hurt, that family should be a source of support, not stress, and that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from relationships that diminish rather than enhance your life. Today, 2 years after that fateful text, our lives have found a new equilibrium. My relationship with Natalie continues to slowly heal. James has become the kind of uncle my children deserve. The Wilsons have embraced us as genuine family. My father makes occasional efforts to connect on his own terms. My mother remains at a carefully managed distance. It isn't the family story I would have written for myself as a young girl, but it's authentic, honest, and ultimately healthier than the facade we maintained for so many years. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members? What helped you find the strength to prioritize your well-being over unhealthy family expectations? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.
Take care.